Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm pleased to be joined again by filmmaker best known for the Kotsky trilogy, Godfrey Reggio. Godfrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to the show. So today I'd like to make a special Christmas notation to everyone here. And I want to say that this is a time of good cheer. It's a time of Santa Claus. It's the time of Kris Kringle. It's what is it? The the reindeers. It's the time of joy, of happiness, of Super Bowls. It's the time of Christmas. So I want to say that this is really more the time of buy. You can use an example. We have Good Friday, but we have Black Friday. We're not on a holy day, we're on a holiday. And I want to talk about that. Um, I would suggest that we follow our own calendar. We recreate the calendar. And how do we do that? By listening to the world, by listening to the people, by listening to the genius loci or the location in which we live. These are holy days, not happy days. They're holy days. They can be happy, but they're holy. So it's the coming of the Magi, the announcement of Emmanuel. For those that know what that is or not, look it up. It's the time where the Magi announced the coming of Emmanuel. It's the time of the birth of Jesus, who was considered a radical, a criminal, a person that broke the law. He was not a good guy according to the agents. So his example, it tells us the following. If you're not willing to die for something, life is not worth living. And if you look around us today, the children are being bought and sold everywhere. In this hour, millions are being bought and sold on the internet. Um, they're it's every hour, and we see on our streets, and we see not here in Santa Fe only, but all over the world, and especially in the United States, refugees from the social world that we live in, mainly young people that cannot handle it. So whatever you can do it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. That's Goethe. Um, so, so the future is the present. It's a contradictory time. And I suggest we follow the road less traveled, the road that embraces paradox, the role of the heterodox, the form. A heterodox is one who moves against the agency. I'll give you an example. Saul. Saul, as Saul, a Jew, was the biggest persecutor of the new Christians that the Christians had ever seen. And boom, he had a eureka. He became from Saul to Paul. He he was a heterodox. He said that love brings us together, Gentile and Jew. So love is the creed of those that follow the Nazarene. The loveless poets tell us stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. Doris Lessing says, our faiths unquestioned become our prisons. So we question the truth of the agency, so that we may find the truth. The truth is here. Question, the Buddhists say to that point that the shortest way is the longest way around. What we face today, because our language no longer describes our world, we face the necessity of a reboost. And what is a reboost? It says not by word, but by act, by deed, by object, do we change the world. So the Chinese proverb supports that. It says in time of maximum social crisis, the single most important thing is to rename the world in which we live. So we do it in our first language, the lingua franca, body language, facial expression, eye behavior. In doing that, I am change. That's who we are. The book of Enoch. Enoch, for those that don't know, was the father of was the grandfather of Melchizedek, who was supposed to be the oldest in the Old Testament, and the father of Noah. And yet his books were banned, locked up so that no one could read them, because his books talked about the future, not now, but the future that is to come. And not the now of then, but the future that we live now. So these are very intense times. I want to just close by saying, now the new year is upon us, 2025. Time for a Koyaanisqatsi. Koyaanisqatsi means life, each life killing each other. It means war beyond the battlefield. It means civilized violence. It's time to mobilize our language in order to stand on our words. This is the hour of now. It is the day of salvation. It is the future present. So I offer you these wonderful, cheery ideas, because we're in now a holiday, not a holiday, but a holy day. And for that, I bring it back to you. Thank you for listening to me.
Hey, that was really exactly in the spirit of the season, Godfrey, and really what I was looking for. And of course, you sprung this on me at the last minute. I had no idea, but I did think this is a show that may rerun over the week. I think it'll air the weekend of Christmas, and then we can rerun it just before the new year. So it can be a bit of a Godfrey Reggio Christmas special or Godfrey Reggio holiday special.
Ah,
But
thank
I brought you here today to talk about artificial intelligence, first of all. Among some other things, we're going to talk about time, even scratch on the on madness at some point. So, artificial intelligence. What is, Godfrey, the cyborg state? And do you still call it the cyborg state?
Yes. A cyborg is a combination between a human and a machine. That's the world we live in right now. AI is so prevalent that it's unnoticed now. It's everywhere. It's on the TV, it's in the room. It does everything, and it's getting smarter and smarter and smarter, not through conceptualization, but through data. There's so much data collected on you, me, and every other person on the planet that AI can now read your mind. There's enough data. We need data brokers even to catch up with these guys. And while it's only been made available in the last 9 months. The Pope with the big puppy white coat, which is a joke. Um, it's been around for 50 years. It was developed by the government, like the internet was developed by the government for nuclear war. This was developed by the government, and it's been in play for a long time, but now they give it to children. So you can have a little app that is AI, and you can do whatever you wish to do. AI is the new divine. Anything we could have said about God in the past, we now can say about AI, though we don't know its name, and most of us don't even know it's here. And this is the predicate of life, artificial intelligence. Yet we are intelligent, and so human intelligence is what I recommend. The films I do have no AI in them. They're all created through human intelligence, and you may do the same.
Godfrey, the mass gathering of information you're talking about, the way that computers are used to collect so much of it, they do it through social media, the Alexa in the next room, a call like this. Could this technology sometime in the near future be used to make a Godfrey Reggio robot?
Maybe it's already there, and one for Jacques as well. Uh, we don't know who's real or who's not real. You can see it on the TV, in the movies. The movies don't even know what they're doing anymore. The average cut is 2 or 3 seconds, uh, because the people that work with AI know that our attention span is all of anything from 2.5 seconds to 8 seconds. So they fill it in with all this stuff that is supposed to be important, and we buy it without question.
I think it brings up an ethical question. Once we know there can be a Godfrey Reggio robot, if there is a Godfrey Reggio robot, should it be destroyed?
Absolutely. Kill me, kill me, kill me. Yes, it's all over the place. We'd all have to commit mass murder to be away from this event.
Well, and do you want to say anything about the singularity? I know we hear about it in the news. I know the plan is to put a chip in everyone's brain. I'm guessing you're against that.
Yes, it's the Simi Valley. It's what that tells us is that they've created an event so singular that it's not even nameable anymore because it's present but unseen. Um, so these are very, very difficult things to deal with because we don't know what it is. And even those that make it probably don't know what it is because it develops not a mind, but a data of its own, and it covers every data point in your life. Right now, they can tell me what I'm thinking, tell you what you're thinking. They can tell you what you're going to be in another hour. The knowledge they have, as I said, is the knowledge of the divine.
Now, I'd also like to talk about time. Time, is it a measure? Is it change? What's the relationship between time and change?
Well, Aristotle says that motion is the measure of time. Okay. Time is the only thing we have. And if the time is not ours, then whose time is it? It's those that are getting us to do what they wish us to do. We're like puppets on a string without realizing that we're the puppet and the AI is the holding these strings all around us. So it's it's a very slippery slope, and we call it singularity, that we've reached a point where we are less important than the machines we've created. Our real name is not Homo sapiens, it's Homo toolmaker. We become the tools we make. The tools that our brain is no bigger than when we existed 300,000 years ago. And today, the difference is the tools we have. So, for example, ancient history, Second World War, more people that were not in the war, but implicated in the war by being human, called accessories to the fact, were murdered. This is the kind of world we live in, a world that has no conscience and a world that's on speed and rush hour outrunning the future. So I look at time not as measurement, I look at time as intensity. I'll give you an example. You could be with your beloved, and in a moment, you could have a moment in time that will last forever because of its intensity, either because of the beauty of it or the horror of it. The intensity of it kind of describes the time in which we live. The time is so intense, we don't have time to even think about it. We're preoccupied by the commoditization of everything through AI. Everything is sell, 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 sell. AI.
And what about the paradox of time where the past was but now is gone, the future will be but is nothing yet, and then the present is nothing? Do you know, are you familiar with this paradox?
Yes, I am. Paradox and contradictory, it, and contradiction is who we are. Um, we don't measure our time, the time measures us. As I said, we're on that little game where we're being pulled like little robots by strings from above. So we don't have control of our time. Someone else has stolen the time we live with.
So Plato says it's the cosmos that is the moving image of eternity, and time is the number that measures the change in the cosmos. And I know the cosmos is one of your areas of expertise. What can you say about what Plato says about time and the cosmos?
Well, I'd rather have Plato speak for himself. He's a little brighter than I, but he gives us a big lesson. Plato, in his last book, Timaeus, his smallest book, says that the world is indeed possessed of breath, of soul, and intelligence. He's telling us not only we, but the world we live in, the animals we're part of the same family, that those have their own dimension. And he said, you must look into time as a way to see our soul, anima, anima mundi, the soul of the world. The soul of the world is in great, great pain. And this is what I think Plato was trying to tell us, that the world is indeed a living entity possessed of soul and intelligence. It's the breath that gives us the soul. What is the breath? You take the breath in through your mouth, you hold it, and you exhale through your nose. This is what anima mundi means. Breathing gives us life. Anything that breathes has life.
Do you want to touch on the suffering in the world, the greater suffering throughout the world? I think that seems to be something that you're connected to, maybe even a little more than most people.
The world is in a state, for me, I'm telling you more about me perhaps than the subject, but for me, the world is in a state of immense suffering, of agony. You can see it on the television, you can see it in the newspapers, you can see it on the street. So the suffering is undescribable. Look at the people in the Middle East right now. Everyone blaming everyone, no one taking responsibility. And it's the people, be they Palestinians or Jews or from Iran or wherever the madness exists, it's the suffering that is created through the warring of time is unbelievable. You know, as we're born as predators. The first pictures of the god animal shows us in a very interesting light. But something we didn't realize is that those that are eaten become the best friends of those that eat. Now, I'm not talking about Purdue fried chicken. I'm talking about the life of the early men that they had they had this arrangement, a concordance, if you wish, between the eat and the eater. And that predicated the life in which we live. So that's who we are. We are meat eaters. The first sign of that is the spear, the man, the woman white woving the grasses so they could catch the little animals in their nets. All of that is appropriate. That's the humility of who we are. Life eats life. But when life eats all of life, when life consumes everything, then we're shot out into the universe. You know, as a filmmaker, I always want to know where the camera is. When I see this image of the blue planet, my thumb can actually block out that planet because we're off planet. We take that picture, we have exited reality. We're on a run and we're out into the universe, and who knows where we go.
And we've spoken a little bit about the cosmos, but what about this planet, Godfrey? What can you tell us about the planet Earth?
Well, I can only tell you again the little bit I know. I told you the earth is alive. I told you the earth is in great state of humiliation. I told you that our language can no longer even describes the world we live in. That's why I said earlier that a reboost is necessary. When our language no longer describes the world, then not by word, but by object, deed, and act do we redefine the world. And we do so through the first lingua franca that we speak: body language, facial expression, eye behavior, gesture. These are the languages that we speak. Our alphabets are the stars of our past, which are our present. So the past is present for us. We don't live in the future. We live in a future that is present among us now. This is who we are. We have to see the future is with us at this very moment, the future present. And that is actually a real grammatical arrangement and only found in the Old Testament. Only in the Old Testament is that found.
One more quote to respond to about time before we move away from it. It's from Confucius. He said, "Time flows away like the water in the river." So, do you want to comment on, yeah,
Yeah. Well, Heraclitus spoke about it as well. He said, you cannot walk in the same river twice because everything is in flux. Everything is moving through water. So you can't possibly be in the same spot more than once because it's always moving. So we have to face that. Our time is slipping right through our fingers and it's present among us right now. The future is here. It is the time we live in.
tell me about madness.
Well, Let's go to Plato. Plato says there's a gift called the gift of madness, more powerful than any intellectual gift one may be given, is this gift of divine madness. It's a gift. It's not something that you deserve. It's given freely to people, whoever gives stuff freely. So we're here and we're chosen to be who we are. And each one of us are radically different. So this is what also Heraclitus says the road to life is up and down, up and down. You never you never are completely up or completely down. Life is a this and a that, all at the same time.
So the up and down, could that be what they call bipolar or manic depressive in today's world?
Well, I guess it could be manic depressive. I mean, mental illness, mine included, are everywhere. It's how to deal with the complexities and the lies of lives, lies in life. So we're living under a regime where its truth becomes the truth. That's the truth we have to question. The truth that becomes our truth is not our truth. It's laid upon us. That's what we should question, that truth. And we question it by offering another truth.
What are some ways that we can see past the BS?
Oh, well, that's a good question. The quieter you are, the more in tune your senses are to the world. If you can be quiet, if you can quell your senses, if you can bring them down right in front of you, you may then have the opportunity to see the world in which we live. But we're so busy by distraction, by TV, by vacations, by games, that we don't see these things. So to move away from that distraction is an act of a heroine, a hero. Women and men are heroes, but those are the ones that have rejected this madness. Like St. Paul, he was first Saul and rejected it. He had a eureka. We can have that if our senses are calm. And it takes a while to do that because, as I've said before, we're on speed and rush hour outrunning our future. So we have to be very careful. And the future is present and we're outrunning it. What does that leave us? It leaves us to a big zero.
Tell me about St. Paul.
Well, you know the story. Paul um, was Saul. He was the biggest persecutor of Christians. He was a zealot Jew. And on the way to Damascus one day, I think it was Damascus, he was knocked off his horse and he had a vision. And the vision told him that he would not be Saul any longer, he would be Paul. He would bring together the Jews and the Gentiles through the act of love, because Christianity is the act of love. No greater, no greater gift can be given to man than the life you possess. Jesus gave his life. Now, I might be getting biblical, but this is the day we're celebrating Christmas, not all the things you can get on holiday things and we're going to sell you this, and oh, if you come now, we'll sell you 3 of them, and if you wait, there might be 5 more to come. We're not in that world.
Godfrey, what was Christmas like when you were a boy?
Oh boy. Well, I was born in 1940. So when I was a boy, my mother would give me the Sears Roebuck catalog for children. And I looked at it all year long to pick out, I could pick out three things only, and they had to be cheap, but it was a big deal for me. So, Christmas was getting gifts for me, especially the stocking. So Christmas was a time of jokes for me, a time of also a time where I could have red wine as a child. That was as important as the dinner for me. So it was a very special time and one involved with commodities.
Now, when you later as a young man became a monk, did you celebrate Christmas? What was Christmas then?
Well, there was a holy day then because we didn't speak much. If I spoke, I was in a French order. I had to say to one of my confrères, if I wanted to say anything, I said, Vive Jésus dans un cœur. And he would have to answer, à jamais, live Jesus in our hearts forever. So we were like running around doing the work of the Lord, not by the clock, but by the bell. And at the age of 14, where you can be most, let's say, unselfish, I learned to do that as a very young child, really. And so I went from La Dolce Vita, New Orleans, to the Middle Ages, really, and found it not only exciting, I felt I went to another planet. I had never experienced discipline like this. I'd never experienced the collaboration of us killing the chickens, taking care of our dead, burying the dead, doing the potatoes, making our clothes. Everything was done through self-sufficiency of the community. That's all gone now.
Godfrey, tell me about burying the dead.
Well, the first sign of this was over 300,000 years ago. The only animal that buries its dead is the human animal. The elephants tried, but they couldn't get it far enough in the ground. Why? Because the human animal felt they had a soul, a soul. And so to give honor to that soul, they buried it. The cat doesn't do that. The dog doesn't do that. The fish doesn't do that. The elephant tried, but he can't get enough into the ground. So we bury our dead because we believe in the soul of the animal that we are. That's a big lesson for me. And that happened 300,000 years ago. And we still bury our dead today.
I know you spent many years as a New Yorker. What was New Year's Eve like for you when you were living in New York?
Ah, first of all, we didn't celebrate any of the holidays other than with ourselves. So one Christmas many years ago in New York, my dear friend Jeffrey Liu, as wild a man as you can find, made us a medieval feast where you had to eat it with your hands and and big bones and everything was done as if we were in the Middle Ages. It was the best Christmas we all had, and the day before and the day after we were working. That's how we celebrated it. We work to celebrate our holy days. And I want to say
Yeah.
that we're most like the creator when we create. So the highest form of prayer for me is creation. It's not, oh, give me this or bless me for that or forgive my sins. No, the highest form of prayer is itself the act of creation. And in that measure, we're most like the God whose name we can't pronounce.
Now, what are you hopeful for in this new year of 2025?
My shibboleth is hope against hope. What is hope? Aristotle, who was one of the brightest people that ever lived, couldn't define it. He says hope is the ability to hope. He used his own definition to describe it, something he said you never do, because hope is an elusive thing. For most of us, it's in the mind. But for people like Greta Garbo, that's not her name. Is it Greta Garbo? No, the young woman.
Gerwig.
Right. Sorry. She says to us, hope is not in your mind, it's in the deed, in the things that you do. She's recommending the reboost that a little child, like a Joan of Arc, the adults don't know what she's talking about.
Godfrey, that's a show. So, any finishing words or final thoughts for this episode? I know this is the ninth time you've been on the show, and I'm really looking forward to making it an even 10 next show.
So, what I would say, I wish you a Merry Christmas. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Everybody, this was Godfrey Reggio. You know him from the Kotsky trilogy. His new movie, Once Within a Time, is soon to be available widely. Please check that out. And everybody, this was Godfrey Reggio, master filmmaker and now mentor. And we'll see you next week.
Bye bye. Thank you, Jacques.
Thanks, Godfrey.
Okay.